Good afternoon and welcome to the Rotary Club of Fort Worth. We're glad to see everyone here and pleased that you have chosen to spend the next hour together. We have a great program today. We will begin our meeting with an invocation by Evan Eastman, who is not here. Is he here? Oh, there he is. There he is. Thought this is going to be interesting. Evan is the business accounts manager for Spectrum Business, followed by the national anthem played by Harriet Harrell, principal of the Harrell Group. Evan?
I totally forgot, but I do pray often, so apologies. Our Father, we're grateful for the opportunity we have to be together this afternoon as Rotarians and friends, acquaintances, and we're grateful for the chance that we have to be better today than we were yesterday. We ask thee to help us in our endeavors to live by the four-way test, that we may frequently have opportunities to lift and serve and love others. We ask for thy blessings upon not just those in this room, but across Fort Worth and our great nation, that cooler heads may prevail and opportunities may be had for us to be better examples to those around us. We ask for these items. Amen. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose red stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets prepare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Harriet and Evan. Here to welcome our guest is Juan Manuel Acosta, CEO and owner of Maverick Realtors Group. Juan Manuel.
Good afternoon. I'll be introducing Nathan Krieger, guest of past President Larry Anton, Cold Panel. Cold Panel, guest of John Kirk. James Bittinger, guest of Mr. John Kirk. Douglas Wilhelm is a guest of Marty Canton. J.D. Dematopoulos, a guest of Chris Jordan. We have Jonathan Lanari, a guest of Benjamin Robertson. We have Carolina James, Shane Starks, Alex Jimenez, and Gilberto Atay, guests of Rebecca Montgomery. And we have Jacob McDaniel, guest of Sean Shelby.
Thank you, Juan Manuel. It is a tradition of the Rotary Club of Fort Worth to recite the four-way test together. Please join me. Number 1, is it the truth? Number 2, is it fair to all concerned? Number 3, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And number 4, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thanks. Today's meeting sponsor is Stronghouse. Whether you are restoring after a storm, remodeling your forever home, or managing a multi-unit build, Stronghouse delivers expert exterior remodeling with lasting strength and care. Thank you, Stronghouse and Rotarian John Kirk. Each month, we provide a report on what your board of directors has done. The board met on April 24th. A quorum was present, and we reviewed the financial statements, approved those statements for the Rotary Club, the Children's Fund, and the Endowment Fund, received a report on membership, which now stands at then stood at 254, plus an additional 12 in the process of becoming members. Accepted I know, that's great, isn't it? Accepted the resignation of Garrett Hadley as Veterans Committee Chair and appointed Ryan Terry to be the chair. Debriefed the RLK, yes, and we appreciate Ryan doing that. Debriefed the RLK RMBA event. Heard a report from those who attended our District 5970 District Assembly and discussed the end-of-year Celebrate Rotary meeting and annual report. We also noted that there will not be a meeting on next Friday, May 22nd. So that is a report of the board, and we will continue to do that once a month to keep you informed of what your board of directors is doing. Next is our newscast, the only time we set aside the four-way test. Here is a lighthearted look at the news by Ryan Sullivan, COO and Principal, Unified Development Media. Ryan?
Thank you. Here's your newscast for May 15th, 2026. In national news, the war in Iran is raging on, and the Strait of Hormuz is blocked. Gas prices have been on the rise to around $4.50 per gallon as a national average. Consumers are actually using specialized apps on their phone to track the lowest price for gas in their neighborhood. This reporter advises using the Taco Bell app, because with their meal deals, it's the only place you can get gas for under $3. Fed Chair Jerome Powell's last day is today. President Trump can't wait for new Fed Chair Kevin Warsh to take his spot. Trump and Warsh are expected to lower rates, which they think will stimulate the economy. Critics say that keeping rates high staves off more inflation. It's a real conflict of interest. You're not groaning at me. You're groaning at the news, so you just remember that. In local news, just yesterday, it was announced that Fort Worth is now the 10th largest city in the United States. Also, it's National Nurses Week. Let's have a round of applause for these healthcare workers, especially those right here in Fort Worth. Now, I do have to report that locally in Fort Worth, we're having a particular shortage of maternity nurses. Healthcare officials are calling it a midwife crisis. In entertainment news, The Devil Wears Prada 2 has been dominant at the box office. Matter of fact, last weekend, my wife, Layla, asked me if I wanted to go see the continuing adventures of Miranda Priestly. I said, no. I grew up with Miranda Priestly. She said, you grew up with a boss who criticized everything you did, didn't speak to you for days, and always forgot your name? I said, boss? I just called her mom. And finally, now this is not really news, but it's a historical fact, a semi-quincentennial minute, if you will, because we all know it's America's 250th anniversary. Noted trader Benedict Arnold went to London after the Revolutionary War, where he wound up a failed businessman. Even his English buddies would tease him about switching sides, and eventually, just to razz him, they hung a small portrait of George Washington in his outhouse. Now, after several trips to the pub, Benny had not brought it up, and his one friend finally said, hey, did you see the portrait? Oh, that portrait. I don't mind it at all. Well, why? His friend asked. Let me tell you, I view it as an inducement, because nothing makes an Englishman fill his breeches quicker than the sight of George Washington. And that is your news for May 15th, 2026. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan, I think. Next, please welcome your social committee, led by Ed Macklin, insurance advisor, champion commercial insurance, and his favorite sidekick, Brenda Matamoros Beveridge, major gifts officer, Texas Ballet Theater. What's going on with the social committee, guys?
1, 2, 3. We're so glad you asked, Dan. You got to scoot over a little bit. That way.
Brenda, I hear there are a few things coming up. Please share.
Ed, you should know, last time I checked, you were on the committee.
Oh, yeah, I guess so, but I put everything in your script. I think there might be a happy hour coming up.
Why, yes, there is. It says right there, here. Happy hour at Grace, Wednesday, May 24th, 5 to 7. May 27th, 5 to 7. Yeah.
That sounds amazing. Anything else we need to know?
Ed, I'm so glad you asked. Light Bites will be provided, cash bar, cost is $25. Scan the QR code. Space is limited, so don't wait.
That's great, Brenda, but wait, I think you have something else up your sleeve.
Yes, the next Rotary outing to Casa Mañana will be on Wednesday, June 3rd to see Come From Away.
Wow, I hear that's an outstanding play.
Yes, it is. It's about when the town of Gander, Newfoundland took in over 7,000 people whose airplane flights were diverted there on 9/11.
That should be fun for the details.
And I'm so glad you asked. Wednesday, June 3rd, curtain time is 7:30 p.m. Tickets are $45, purchased through the QR code on screen. Ed, what other special events are on the horizon?
Brenda, I am so glad you asked that. Stay tuned. We have a baseball outing to see the Rangers, an evening at Cidercade to play arcade games and my favorite, pinball, an evening at the Omni Theater at the Science and History Museum, an event at the Center for Transforming Lives, a whiskey tasting, and something I'm really excited about, a tour of the Lockheed Martin plant.
Wow, sounds like the committee has been busy.
Brenda, you should know you're on it.
Oh, that's right. I'm definitely looking forward to all the events and hope every one of our fellow Rotarians can make.
Again, next up is Grace on the 27th. Look forward to seeing everybody there. And that's the Social Committee update. Back to you, President Ann.
Thank you, Ed and Brenda. And just for the record, I've already bought my ticket to Come From Away. It looks like it's going to be a great play and a good time will be had by all. You know, one of our biggest services to the community is our grants allocation program for local nonprofits. Each year, we present checks to a number of nonprofits. This year, we will have recognized 24 different nonprofits with allocations. Here to present 2 checks is President-elect Tom Law, Managing Broker, VCL Commercial Real Estate Services, LLC. Tom.
Thanks, Ann. I'm so glad you introduced me. That's good. Y'all, as President Ann said, this is the result of your gifts to the club foundations and endowments. Today we've got Laundry Love Fort Worth, accepted by Tanya Wilson Brown, CEO and founder Kelly Graham. In our neighborhood, north side of Fort Worth, families are working hard to build bright futures for their children, but for many, a significant hurdle stands in the way. The high cost of keeping school clothes clean, with weekly laundry expenses reaching up to $40, many parents are forced to make impossible choices between basic necessities. Clean clothes are more than just a convenience, they are a tool for confidence. When students feel good about how they show up to class, they engage more, stay in school, and thrive alongside their peers. The nearest free laundry resource is a 15-mile journey. By supporting Laundry Love Fort Worth, the club helps maintain the honor, the dignity of these families, and ensures that every student has the steady foundation they deserve to succeed. So we are very pleased and happy to be able to present $7,500 from our Children's Fund to Laundry Love Fort Worth. And I'm just going to act like I'm handing something to them because I don't have that check. But we do have it, I promise.
Thank you very much.
Second, we also have a Community Healthcare of Texas joining us, accepted by Karen Derrick, Chief Philanthropy Officer. Some of you probably know Karen. The club's grant will support the Honors Veterans Program that provides dedicated support, recognition, and grief education for veterans and their families. Key highlights include veteran-to-veteran recognition. Every veteran patient can receive a pin and certificate in a ceremony led by a fellow service member. These honors are tailored to the veteran's preferred timeline and scale, ranging from private moments to larger facility events. Grief support. Families receive specialized counseling and education specifically designed to address the unique needs of the veterans community. Public honors. The program recognizes over 100 non-program veterans during the Veterans Day events at long-term care facilities. And memorial tributes. Deceased veterans are uniquely honored during the annual Lights of Love event in Fort Worth in November. Karen, we have $7,500 in endowment funds to present to your organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all who served.
Thank you.
Thank you again, and notice I'm wearing this nice little pin. Ask me about the four-way giving program because this contributes to this program. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Tom, and congratulations to Laundry Love Fort Worth and the Community Healthcare of Texas. We appreciate what you are doing for our community and are happy to support you. I'd now like to call on past President Rebecca Montgomery, President and CEO of Montgomery Strategies, who has an update on the Literacy Roundup efforts and a special guest. Rebecca.
Thank you, President Ann. Good afternoon, everyone. What do these folks have in common? Richard Branson, Whoopi Goldberg, Steven Spielberg, Magic Johnson, Henry Winkler, Robin Williams, Tom Cruise, John F. Kennedy, George W. Bush, Muhammad Ali, Shaquille O'Neal, Nolan Ryan. It goes on and on and on. They all struggled with reading. Many diagnosed with dyslexia. Today we have a Literacy Roundup update, initially brought to us by Caroline James. Thank you so much. You may ask, what is Literacy Roundup? This is a program that gives children free literacy and dyslexia screenings and helps families get the support and school resources they need to be successful. Some of you might ask, what is dyslexia? It is a learning difference that makes reading and spelling words harder, even though, as you heard before, a person may be very smart and very successful. Rotarians, thank you. You've stepped up as volunteers to support students with dyslexia and their families as they navigate receiving additional testing and the education support in our school system. Yes, our school system that we already know is in crisis. So this is one way we can help with our school system. And the crisis they're in is helping those with dyslexia. Approximately 1 in 10 children suffer from dyslexia, 1 in 10. How many former school teachers do we have in here? So if you have 30 students in a classroom, how many is that? 3. No, I'm serious. You have 3 students that cannot read. So what does that do? It makes teaching the class very difficult because you're teaching them the same. So we have approximately 65,000 students, is a number, conservative I'll go with, here in Fort Worth ISD, 65,000 students. So how many is that? That's right, 6,500 approximately. But if you talk to folks in this area, they will say it's closer between 9 and 10,000. So as a volunteer, I'm honored to introduce you to an amazing mother, and now someone I call friend, to share her experience with what Rotarians have been doing and what we can continue to do to make a difference in a child's life and future. Ms. Shana Starks.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share my story about my son, Noah, my sweet 11-year-old boy who is graduating 5th grade next week. It's hard to believe I'm about to have a middle schooler. They say it goes too fast, and they're right, it does. And I want to share that Noah is a student at one of the Fort Worth camps at the Victory Forest location. And last year, Literacy Roundup came in, and they screened the campers for dyslexia. And after which, Caroline James from the Literacy Roundup group reached out and informed me that my son was at risk for dyslexia and that he should be tested. And I was honestly relieved to hear her say this, because 2 years ago, my son was denied dyslexia services. His teacher at the time and myself and my husband all recognized that he was struggling with reading and writing and needed some additional support. However, his dyslexia testing scores put him in what they described a gray area, where he was scoring very high in some academic areas, but in reading and writing, he was below average. But since he was still in that average category, he did not meet the criteria for dyslexia services. So when Caroline reached out, I honestly felt validated. It was so good to hear that someone else recognized that Noah needed support. So Literacy Roundup helped me open doors for Noah that I thought were already closed. And more importantly, they provided me with an advocate to help me navigate the system and that process of getting the support he needed. So I met Rebecca in September of 2025 when she showed up at my son's school for his special education meeting where we were going to discuss testing Noah again. And I was blown away by their commitment in supporting my child. And the difference this time from the time before was that I had Rebecca on my side of the table. My husband and I are not educators, but we know our child and we knew he needed help. And while Rebecca is not an educator, her experience with Literacy Roundup meant she knew what questions to ask. And so she was able to help us push for those support services, and they eventually agreed with us pushing to test my son again. And so I met Rebecca again at that next meeting where they were providing us with the information from his testing, and we were not surprised when we found out that Noah did need dyslexia services. And it was because Rebecca and Caroline that we made it there. But it was heartbreaking as a parent to see that my son had essentially not progressed at all in the areas where he had been struggling years earlier. And so for 2 years, he remained stuck. It was, the advocacy and the ally that I needed, not the expert. And that's what I got through Literacy Roundup. So I want y'all to know that last summer, Literacy Roundup was in 6 community centers and 2 libraries. They tested 400 students and identified 150 at being in need for dyslexia services. This year, they're going to be in 13 community centers, and they're going to be testing over 1,000 students. That's incredible. This is so important because 12 to 15% of the population identify with dyslexia. So how many of those students are falling through the cracks like my son did? But, this is a big increase, and they're going to need 100 advocates to help support these families in our community and to, look at how children are reading and whether or not they need support. So will you be an advocate? I hear that many of you already are. Thank you so much for your support and what you're doing for families. So for those of you who might be considering it, will you sit on the side of the table with the parents and help ensure that schools are listening to their concerns and help students with dyslexia learn how to read? I can tell you it will mean the world to them because it meant the world to me. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Shayna. Thank you all for giving her that time to speak, and I felt like an update from a parent would really resonate and help us understand what we're doing with this literacy roundup. We need more volunteers, more advocates for all our students. Several of our advocates currently have been taking on multiple students, so we need as many advocates as we can. And you can also get this really cool t-shirt. You may see some of these t-shirts in groups at City Hall and now at the Board of Managers meeting, so we have a lot of fun. On your table, there's a flyer with some additional information celebrating our 250 years, correct, that we are all starting to, but there's some activities and opportunities for you to learn more about dyslexia and also support it. Simulations, oratory contests, which is so cool, and a goal of, before July 4th, to have 250 students screened. That's just 6 weeks from now. The goal is 250 by July 4th. We need your help. We need you Rotarians. Thank you, those who have stepped up and continue to volunteer. You have a role in changing the future of these students. Literacy is life-changing. Think about it. What would you be doing if you could not read? When a child learns to read, a life changes forever. Thank you. Thank you, President Ann.
Thank you, Rebecca and Shayna. It's so good to hear about the progress of this program. And Caroline, we're also very pleased that you came to visit with us today. It's good to see you again. It's now my pleasure to introduce to you our chairperson of the day, Maddie Compton, retired federal prosecutor who just told me that she had failed retirement because of her many activities. Maddie's going to introduce our speaker today. Maddie?
Good afternoon. I met our speaker on August the 14th, 2025, at the exhibition of David Jeremiah's The Fire This Time. I had read that she, like I, was a graduate of a women's college, Mills College in California. As we talked, I discovered that her daughter was a graduate of another women's college, my alma mater, Smith College. But what really sealed the deal was her response when I asked her why she had come to the Modern from Hawaii. She said, "The Modern is the best modern art museum in the country." Naturally, as a born and raised resident of Fort Worth, I was peacock proud and wanted the members of the Rotary Club of Fort Worth to hear from this smart, savvy woman. So it is my privilege and pleasure to introduce you to Helona Norton Westbrook. Director Helona Norton Westbrook, Dr. Helona Norton Westbrook, in her tenure at the Modern Art Museum of Fort Worth in July 2025, about a month before I met her. She served as the director and CEO of the Honolulu Museum of Art from 2020 to 2025, and prior to that was director of curatorial affairs and curator of modern and contemporary art at the Toledo Museum of Art in Ohio. Norton Westbrook is a visionary museum leader with a proven track record of institutional transformation and audience expansion. At the Honolulu Museum of Art, she doubled annual attendance from pre-2020 levels, secured millions of dollars in gifts to the museum's endowment, and significantly expanded the institution's fundraising efforts. Managing a staff of 150 employees, she led the museum through a successful American Alliance of Museums re-accreditation, developed its first comprehensive strategic plan, and guided a restoration and expansion of its historic art school. The director is a passionate advocate for museums and the vital role that they play in providing access to the arts, fostering greater empathy, connection, and creativity in the lives of individuals and communities as a whole. She has extensive expertise in modern and contemporary art, as well as the formation, history, and evolution of museum collections in the 20th century. Raised in the San Francisco Bay Area, Norton Westbrook earned a BA in American History and Studio Art from Mills College in Oakland, California, an MA in Art History from Courtauld Institute of Art in London, and a PhD in Museology from the University of Manchester. I give you Helena Norton Westbrook.
Thank you, everybody. I am just so delighted and pleased to be here with you today. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I just want to say, first of all, that I'm truly honored to have the opportunity to speak to you today, and I just want to thank all of you for your service as part of Rotary. Everywhere that I've lived, I've always found that people who are in Rotary are the kindest, most community-oriented, most forward-looking people in a community. And in a community that I already think is so kind and warm and welcoming, you guys are, the example of the warmest and kindest and friendliest of them all. So I just really want to thank you for being here, for being part of this organization, and for the good work that you do. It's really appreciated. So I am going to share with you a little bit today about my background and about what we're working on at the museum. Just to give you some insight, I am, new in the role, started in July of last year, and I am following a very revered and beloved art museum director in Marla Price, Dr. Marla Price, who was the director at the Modern for over 30 years. So that is quite big shoes to fill and a legacy to follow. And it's been a lot of fun to sort of begin to think about what are the really amazing things that this museum does, that it's known for, and how do we really continue to take that into the future in new and exciting ways. So from Honolulu to Fort Worth, as Maddie was already explaining a little bit about my background, I just say that I have lived all over the country, and museums are my passion. They are what gets me excited when I get up to go to work in the morning, thinking about how art museums can really be a conduit for community connection, for creativity. And it's just so special to be part of a museum that is deeply invested and connected to its local community, but also really has strong connections nationally and internationally with the broader art world. And so that's what I love about museums, and that is part of what drew me here to Fort Worth. As I was saying, or as Maddie kindly said that I had mentioned to her when we met, the Modern is the strongest, most dynamic museum of modern contemporary art in the country. So you guys should all give yourselves a round of applause, because that is really amazing. And as you know, we don't only just have the Modern, we also have the Kimball and the Amon Carter, and we are so lucky to have those wonderful neighbors. Any one of those museums would be very, very special to find in a city and community of our size. And the fact that we have three, and that they're so dynamic, that they're so healthy, that they've been so well cared for over generations, is really a credit to Fort Worth and to the community in Fort Worth. So I know that sometimes we feel, everywhere I've lived, people feel like, oh, is my local museum really that great? And I'm telling you that your local museums really are that great, and you should be very, very proud of them. And I'm very, very proud to be here and to be leading the Modern. So just to tell you a little bit about the history of the Modern, because we are often rightly identified with being in our beautiful Tadao Ando building, but actually the Modern is the oldest art museum in the state of Texas. It goes back to the 1890s, and its roots are really part of the Library and Art Association that formed in that time. And that was a group of enterprising women on the frontier who really wanted to combat things like the vice of Hell's Half Acre and really think about how could they bring culture to Fort Worth. And so I find this very, very interesting that even though the museum has continually been about the art of its time, it actually has this long and storied history that connects us really deeply and connects us in a way that we're really integral to the history of the city as well. Then, of course, in the 70s, many of you probably remember this as the first building that you experienced of the Modern. This was the building that we were in from the 70s until 2002. So I know many of you probably have memories of going here. And then, of course, we moved into the beautiful Tadao Ando building in 2002, and next year will be our 25th year anniversary in that building, believe it or not. And it still looks as fresh and beautiful as ever, and we still get visitors coming from all over the world, not just to see the collection and the exhibitions, but also the building itself, which is an architectural masterpiece. And again, we're so lucky because the Kimball and the Amon Carter are also really special architectural buildings as well. So again, just really want you to feel the pride of these incredible art institutions that we have in our community. Just to tell you a little bit about the permanent collection. So beginning in the 1960s, we really began to focus more intentionally on the art of our time exclusively. So although collecting contemporary art had been part of what we were doing since the 1890s, we would also collect historic art. And then in the 1960s, it really became decided that the focus of the Modern was going to be on modern and contemporary art exclusively. And so to sort of announce this, the museum acquired this incredible Pablo Picasso, which is still part of our collection. This came into the collection in 1967, and it was acquired live on television broadcast in an auction that was nationwide and that the Modern won, and it really put the Modern on the map. So I always think about this painting as a sort of turning point in the history of the collecting of the museum. And when I think about sort of works that exemplify the standards of excellence and really world-class art, this incredible Mark Rothko, which hangs in our galleries, is a really great example of something that anywhere in the world, any contemporary or modern museum would be so fortunate to have this sort of work, and we have it right here in Fort Worth. Just to give you a little snapshot of the collection, it's a relatively small collection, 2,500 works of art. Just to put that in context, the museum that I was at previously in Honolulu had 50,000. So often museums have thousands and thousands and thousands of objects, but it doesn't mean that those are all objects that you can display or would want to display. So we're very lucky in that we have this very sophisticated, refined, very high quality collection of 2,500 works. And at any given time, we have a few hundred works on view, and they rotate. So that's the way that works. You never see everything all at once, but you get to see it if you come back for repeat visits. So 1945 through the present is the focus of the museum, and that's what we call in the art world really like the post-war period. So things that happened after World War II. That's really when you see the rise of sort of abstract expressionism and really response to what it means to live in a global society following the Second World War. We're well known for the excellence of what we have and also the breadth across mediums. And so what I mean by medium is painting, photography, sculpture. We really have a good representation across those areas. Abstract expressionism, so that's the huge paintings that are abstract, is really a strength of ours, as well as minimalism. So that's work that came out of the 1970s, much quieter, more contemplative. That's another strength of ours. And we are just well known for having a collection that balances both the range, lots of different artists, but also the depth. So something unique about the modern is that we have a few areas of really concentrated collecting of specific artists. So for instance, the artist Robert Motherwell, who's a very important 20th century artist. We have the most works of Robert Motherwell other than the Museum of Modern Art in New York. So that's the kind of quality of the collection that we have. Just to switch gears a little bit, not talk about the art, but to talk about what's been happening behind the scenes at the Modern. It's an exciting time to come and take over after such a long-serving director, but it's also a period of sort of reflecting and taking forward a new vision. And so just the way that we've really sought to do that in these first months is to really focus on establishing rapport and connection, foundations of trust, and for myself, really deepening my knowledge and understanding of the staff and the community. This is my leadership approach. I try and be very art-centered, really community-oriented, and really working with people to build a strong vision of where we're going. I believe very much that as a director and a leader, especially when you come from someplace else, you don't want to just arrive and imprint your vision onto the museum, but you want to work with the community and with stakeholders in ways that are both directed but also organic, so that you get feedback and ultimately the future of the museum that we create is something we create together. And so a huge priority has just been, as I said, building those foundations of trust and spending a lot of time to listen without agenda. So just really learning, absorbing, and there's so much wisdom and knowledge within the museum and also within this community that's really been a fun part of getting to lead this museum. So deepen knowledge and understanding, that is really, for me, both looking at the exterior parts of the museum that you would be familiar with, so our programs, our exhibitions, our class offerings, but also really spending a lot of time to deeply sort of understand the internal culture of the museum. As you can imagine, running a museum that has an architectural masterpiece at its heart, it requires a lot of knowledge and patience to sort of steward this architectural gem. So that's been a significant part of the job as well. And this is our new organizational structure, which I'm showing to you because I think it's been a fun process to work on this with the staff. And it's also not sort of what we think about as a traditional organizational structure in terms of top-down and very hierarchical, but trying to really show collaboration and connection across the organization. So there's been a lot of involvement with that, and I just thought it would be fun for you to see that. Right now at the museum, we have this incredible exhibition by Rashid Johnson, who is one of the foremost contemporary artists of our time. He works across media, so photography, sculpture, video, installations that take over rooms that are full of suspended plants and immersive with music and piano. We've been really, really fortunate to have this exhibition at the museum right now. It is a partnership with the Guggenheim. So it started in New York at the Guggenheim, and then it has come to Fort Worth. So we are just absolutely delighted to have that, and I hope you will come see it if you haven't seen it already. It will be up until September. And this is just looking ahead. So we are having that particular exhibition up until the fall. Then we're actually going to pause our exhibitions for a while, and we are going to reinstall the permanent collection completely and have that up for 18 months. So remember I was saying we have those 2,500 works of art, only a few hundred that we can show at a time, and we really want to reintroduce that permanent collection to the community. And so we're going to have a period of sort of celebration and elevating of that. And then we're also going to create a strategic plan, which the museum hasn't had in some time, and that will be something that will be done both internally and with our board and with community input. And so to really think about how do we take the mission and the good work of this museum and what it's been doing for over 100 years, and how do we take it forward into the next chapter. And then we are also going to enliven and sort of reimagine the exhibition program. So one of the things that has been working really well, I think, is the experience of the exhibitions and how they are presented to the audiences. But behind the scenes, we don't sort of have enough time to fully maximize the potential of exhibitions. So this is just sharing with you like a little bit behind the scenes is like we've been doing this great work, but we really want to reset the cadence and the pace of how we do things. And so spotlighting the permanent collection and then restarting our exhibition program is going to be a really fun opportunity for the staff to really think about how they work together in a new way going forward. And that was my overall presentation. I'm really glad to have the opportunity to speak with you and very happy to take questions. Yes.
I know I approached you before you started today to let you know that my child had taken the classes that they have in the summer. So can you speak to that and let people know about the amazing classes that kids can participate in?
So we have a really robust education program. We do a spring break art camp, and we do summer camps as well. And we'll be looking to expand that and grow that even more in the future. We also do workshops for teens and occasionally for adults, and we're really invested in sort of finding ways that people can connect with the exhibitions and the collection through actual making. We find it a really like dynamic way to connect people in a really visceral sense with creativity and with the art that we show. Yes?
Out of curiosity, and huge fan of the modern Washington community, what is the annual budget to run a facility?
So the annual budget is about $18 million. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Talk a little bit about acquisitions, how you make decisions about what to go after.
Yeah, so a question about acquisitions. So we have, as I said, 2,500 works in the collection, and those all represent acquisitions over the past several decades and a couple of generations. And so one of the things that we are always doing is looking for artwork to bring into the collection. And there's two ways that that happens. One is through purchasing it, and the other is through sort of stewarding relationships that ultimately bring those works to us as gifts. So we just had our first acquisitions committee meeting since I arrived, and there's 10 new works that we're bringing into the collection. 3 of those are gifts, and 7 of them are purchases. And we really look for a range of things in terms of speaking to and building upon the strong foundation of the collection that we already have. So we want to have things that are photography, sculpture, works on paper, painting, that sort of range. We also want to really speak to that period of 1945 to the present. So we also try and have a range in that way. And then a kind of interesting part of it is that you're looking for things that deepen the collection. So as when I was talking about like having the strong collection of Robert Motherwell's, so looking at artists we already have, how could we have deeper representation of them? But then on the other hand, you're also looking for things that aren't part of the collection, that sort of complement what you already have and help to grow and expand the foundation of art that we have in the collection. And the way that the process works is that it will be the director working with what we call the curatorial team. So the curators are the people dedicated to the care and study of the art in the museum. And then we have a process through which we recommend to the Acquisitions Committee, which is a subcommittee of our board. And then ultimately, our executive committee of the board approves that. So that's how that works. Yes?
Can you talk a little bit about the Tadao Ando building? Because it's one of my favorite spaces. And can you tell us a little bit of the history and who he is?
Yeah, so Tadao Ando is a world-renowned, internationally famous Japanese architect. And this building was his first major project in the United States, and really sort of became a very important project in his overall career in sort of expanding his visibility in the US. He was known before that time quite well outside of the US, but this project was really a catalyst for greater appreciation of Ando. And now you can find several Ando buildings within the United States, including the Clark, which is in Massachusetts. So it is an iconic building. And one of the things that I hope that you will experience if you have not already, and I'm giving you permission right now to do it, is that if you touch the walls of the modern, you will notice they are silky and smooth, even though they are concrete. It's a really unique experience. And that's because they had a very particular technique when they were created to really be hand poured and hand polished. And it's really indicative of this sort of incredible sense of care and building that went into the visioning and creation of the building. When you look at the building, you know, you see these three pavilions, and that's where we house the exhibition and collection. And they come out and they sort of extend in the water. So to be giving this illusion of sort of floating in this space between water, air, light, and concrete material. So the building conveys a really sort of profound meditative experience just of the architecture. And Ando, the architect, really wanted to create a sort of modern day temple to the incredible collection that we have.
There have been some interesting stories around the world of art being stolen or being issues lately. Is that something that has changed anything, or do you already have stuff in place to manage that?
We have good stuff in place to manage that. So the security of the collection and sort of rising threats in museums and in public spaces in general, I mean, is something I think that's very top of mind. So we have, you know, a system of gallery guards. We have a camera system that's quite advanced. We have people monitoring both sort of in the spaces and then behind the scenes. But it is definitely something that's always top of mind, and that we're, you know, looking to both protect the art, but most importantly, the people who are visiting too. So absolutely, yeah. It's a continued. Okay, yeah. Yes.
How do pieces or new pieces ever leave the collection? And under what circumstances?
Yeah. It's a great question. So how do things leave the collection? Not very often. But so when they leave the collection, things go through a process of de-accession. So it's called de-accessioning. And it's kind of like the reverse of how they enter the collection. And that is that the curators and the director would decide that it was no longer appropriate to have those works or no longer desirable for those works to be in the collection. And so it would be presented to the Acquisitions Committee, and then it would be presented to the Executive Committee, and then it would be formally de-accessioned. And if it is de-accessioned, it can be sold, it can be given away, and there's different reasons things get de-accessioned. So in our case, you know, because we have this long history, and since the 60s we have focused on work from 1945 to the present, we do still have a few things in the collection that are from before that time. And so those things would be potential candidates for de-accession, because they really no longer fit in the scope of the museum's collecting practices. There's another thing that happens with de-accessioning is that you might decide that it would be a better use of resources to have less of a certain kind of art or less of one artist's particular kind of art and take those funds and redistribute it to purchasing art. So you can also put forward a proposal to deaccession in that way. But one of the sort of golden rules of museums is that if the museum ever makes money from selling the art, it goes back to buying more art. So you're not allowed to sell the art to get a new roof, is sort of one of the rules. Yeah. Yes.
Realize I'm biased, but I don't think many people are aware of it. But talk about the musical programs and the movies in the auditorium.
So we also are known for having a really dynamic film series that is part of the museum, and I hope that you guys come and experience that. We really try and offer a range of films, both things that are sort of popular and familiar, as well as things that are unknown and sort of an exploration. And so that's a really fun part of what the Modern does. And we also offer musical programs, and we're looking to, in the future, do even more sort of dance performance, really crossing across all sections of performing arts to have that be part of the experience of the Modern along with the visual arts. So yeah, yes.
I heard on the news this morning that Sotheby's auctioned off a Mark Rothko for $85.5 million. And so it just made me wonder what the value of the Rothko is at the Modern, but also if you have any idea of the value of the entire permanent collection.
It would be billions. But once the works come into the collection, we sort of forget about their value for all intents and purposes. But yes, our Rothko would be similar to that Rothko that just sold at auction for $85 million. Yeah. Yeah, okay. More questions? Any more questions? Okay, maybe one or two more back there, yeah.
Let me tell you that Modern is very important to me. I had a date with a lady in August of 2005 at the first Friday at the Modern Art Museum. We're about to celebrate our 20th wedding anniversary.
I love that.
Do you consider, when you're thinking about a special exhibition, the difference between the Fort Worth community and, for example, the San Francisco community? It's just my guess that there would be a different sensibility there in terms of what might go over in that community.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I mean, I think what you're trying to do in a museum like ours is really celebrate the art world locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. So you want to bring things from all of those areas that are going to resonate with all of those communities. But the local one is a really important factor to think about how will certain works read in this community. And there's no, perfect answer. You sort of learn by experimentation and response. So I think it's definitely something that is a factor here, and I would say in any museum. So, having just been in Honolulu for a period of time, there was enormous desire from the community to have a celebration of the arts of the Pacific, even though we were a sort of museum that looked internationally. So over time, that became more and more a part of our program. And so I think it'll be interesting to sort of, as the leader here, go on a similar sort of exploration and conversation with the community about what people want to see, what resonates with them, but then also to bring people things that they don't expect too, and broaden horizons. So I think it's always a balance of those things. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Dr. Norton Westbrook. It's a tradition of the Rotary Club of Fort Worth to make a contribution in your honor to Rotary International's Polio Plus program, which has provided 3 billion immunizations to children across the world over the last 38 years. So thank you very much. And please come back and see us again. We're so proud of what you're doing there.
Oh, thank you. Thank you guys all.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, we have just 3 closing announcements today. Thank you again to Stronghouse and Rotarian John Kirk for sponsoring today's meeting. Tom mentioned the four-way donor initiative when he was presenting the checks. Yesterday, you should have all received a letter from me about our four-way donor and Go Badge programs. I hope you'll consider making a contribution so we can continue to provide funding to worthy nonprofits like the 2 who received checks today. And if you make a contribution between now and June 1st, you'll be recognized at our year-end meeting, which is on June 26th. And coming next week to your inbox, the email that we all look forward to every 6 months. It's Rotary dues time. We have a wonderful club, and each and every one of you is important. So please renew your membership soon. All right, remember, we don't meet next Friday in observance of Memorial Day. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Don't forget to stop by and see Rebecca if you are interested in more information on Literacy Roundup. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Our meeting is adjourned.